Alright, welcome back to another episode of the No Name Podcast. We've taken a long break. And Kyle, why was that? Because it's all your fault.
Because I added one more to my family, that's why.
Hey, talk about
I had my little son, Julian. Julian Norman Graves is here.
Hell yeah, let's go.
So I took some time and started to be a daddy again. Daddy times two.
I was going to say, you were already a daddy.
Yeah, started to be a daddy one more again.
Nice.
Yeah, so I took some time off to do that. And I should say I took some time off just from doing this. I can't say I took some time off from working because...
Yeah, no, we just didn't have the time to
just
sit here.
I was literally in the delivery room, like, sending emails.
No, I bet.
Like,
no.
damn.
You didn't take off work. We just didn't have the time.
I wanted to take off work. I just, like... It's at this point with the amount of clients I was working with, it's impossible.
Person wouldn't really let him. I kept bugging him. Dude, that's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dang, yo, and I met him. The dude got big ass fucking hands, yo. I don't know where he got them from because Kyle got baby hands.
He's gonna be. Nah, man, I got big hands.
Now Kyle got those hamburger hands from Burger King commercial. Compared to his kid, yo.
It's like the hamburger helper hands.
Yeah, kid's about to be big.
He is. He's got big hands, but he's got big feet too.
And to put a timeline to it, let's see. This episode is being recorded 2 weeks from his birth.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks.
Right? He was
born on the 12th.
On the 12th. I thought it was the 8th.
So, the 8th. I'm sorry.
Jesus
his due date was supposed to be 12th.
He doesn't even know his
Jesus.
own kid's birthday.
This is on running on 3 hours of sleep every night for the last 2 weeks.
Born June the 8th, and today is the...
Today's the 26th.
There you go. It's been a while.
Yeah. So
that's awesome, dude. Oh man,
what's new with you? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
We haven't seen each other in a long time. I just put my head down and I've just been working while everyone's been busy with life.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen that not in person, but on our group chat. It seems like every day. Hurston's got a deal on a contract. Hurston's got a deal on a contract. Hurston's got a deal on a contract.
Yeah, just putting my head down and trying to focus, dude. I got some goals for next year, and it starts with what I do this year. It's gonna be attainable. Definitely gonna do a fixer-upper in Rhode Island. I want a single family next year. So,
where have you seen? It seems like before I left, not before I left, but before I took some time off for family, that like most of us were like struggling to get anything cooking, to get any deals on a contract. Obviously, it's still very much a seller's market, so it's tough if you're working with buyers.
Yeah, I mean,
but it seems like you the last 3-4 weeks have just been...
I've had some deals that have been harder than others, but the consistency's been there. So from my perspective of the challenging market, it comes down to price point. I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to help individuals either with cash buys or pre-approvals over 400. Doesn't matter if it's 410 or 450 or 700. As long as they're over 400, it helps them out.
Bit, yeah.
I've struggled with individuals that are in the middle of 3 to 375 range because that pool is a lot bigger than everybody else.
It's like 75% of the buyers.
I'll tell you right now, I submitted 2 offers for an individual this past weekend, and then one of those properties received 15 offers.
Yeah.
So that pool of buyers is...
It's like the listing I just had, that one soccer listing.
Yeah.
We had 19 over ask offers.
What was the price on that?
It was a little ranch, 3-bed, 2 bath. We listed for $299 just because sweet little old lady owns it. She hasn't done any updates in like the last 20 years. So, I felt, especially for the area, $299 was a fair price point. And I'll tell you what, dude, it's like I had two open houses the weekend I went live. It was like a madness.
So the one that I just got on the contract list for $299.
Yep.
I went up to $350. Granted, we have contingencies in place because both listing agent and myself are skeptical that it will appraise.
Right.
Which is good for the buyers that the appraisals are doing their job. So we have contingencies of what happens if it doesn't, and is everybody okay with those terms, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
But nonetheless, another reason for an offer of that magnitude is they are paying up to $15,000 in closing cost.
There you go.
So as far as...
When you say they,
sellers.
Sellers, right?
So as far as
So you got
like,
350 with 15 in concession.
correct. So as far as like value to dollar goes,
Right.
sure, my buyer offered what looks like $50,000 over. If it appraises at that, they're essentially not paying
Any closing costs.
a dime for clothing costs.
Right.
Granted, the argument is, that might go within your mortgage in 30 years, but reality is no one stayed in their mortgage for 30 years.
And it keeps money in their pocket for now.
And the property, if it appraised at 350, is going to appraise for another 50 grand in 12 months.
So, oh God, yeah.
So, not really money lost. If anything, the savings up front is way more valuable than an extra $20 a month in your mortgage.
You know what we should talk about this time too is like, we should talk about, for all the buyers out there who maybe are either A, getting beat out on their offers, or B, like brand new buyers entering the market and just kind of asking what to expect. Just for reference, again, my listing in Woonsocket, $299, we got an offer the offer we accepted was $356.
I mean, for the buyers right now, again, let's call it first week of July. This episode will probably reach out second week of July. Let's say second week of July, you're watching this right now and you're a new buyer, you're thinking about getting pre-approved. It's going to come down to what you have in your bank account and what your numbers are. So we'll do ballpark. If you're under $400,000 pre-approval with 10 grand in the bank, you have a way better chance than the person that only had the $1,000 in the bank.
Right. It also depends on your financing too. I mean, if you're using Rhode Island Housing or using some down payment assistance program,
especially if you're using the down payment assistance program, that doesn't hinder you in any way. But because you have some money in the bank, you can get a lot more strategic in your offer.
Right.
And obviously call us if you want to go into the details of what I'm talking about when it comes to inspections and things of that nature. I'm not waiving them anymore, but I am being a lot more strategic in how I word them, in the sense of, hey, I have a buyer has some money in their pocket, so depending on the cost of a repair, they may or may not be comfortable with it.
Right.
So again, that looks a lot more favorable than someone that says, I want all of it fixed. It's just kind of letting them know, hey, this buyer...
I've been telling all my buyers, like, I don't want to call you a beggar, but think about it this way. Like, beggars can't be choosers. If you're competing with 10, 15, 20 offers, like, if you're gonna go to the seller and be like, I need all this fixed and all that fixed, the seller's got 18, 19 other offers that are like, we're not going to ask you for shit. You know what I mean? We're not going to ask you for shit. We're going to give you 25, 30, 50,000 over asking, depending on the price point and the condition of the house. We're not going to ask you for shit. We may be able to close in 30 days to make it go faster for you. Like, you cannot be greedy as a buyer. The thing is, if you're a seller, I mean, shit, you can be as greedy as you want.
Honestly,
you know what I mean?
Honestly, for some of the ones that I've seen, they're actually a little bit of the opposite.
Really?
As far as, like, you can be greedy, but to Kyle's point, don't be too greedy, because everyone's trying to be greedy right now. So the sellers are picking the ones that are.
I'm not saying that you can't get anything. But if you're going to be like,
this is some whole shit.
I hate that shit.
Yo, the camera just died.
All right, we're going to put a new battery in and re-up this real quick. Other than that, what else is going on, man?
So if you're a buyer so we were saying if you're a buyer in mid-July, that's what we're looking at. Yeah. Dude, we got Dallas coming up. That shit.
That's right, we got Dallas. We got Tom Ferry coming up. Tom Ferry coming up. That's going to be good. For all of you who don't know, Tom Ferry is the leading real estate coach in probably all the world. Massive following of people. He does a summit every year, and this will be our second annual trip. I'm excited. It was good last year. It was like, for me, last year it was overwhelming. It was like a lot of information at once, and as like a new realtor, I was like, what the fuck? Like,
some shit probably didn't make sense.
I was like, what are we like? This is so much information. But now that like I've done a good amount of business over the past year, I think this is going to be good. I'm not going to like try to focus on everything, because I think if you try to take everything in, that's when I got overwhelmed. I was like, I got to like not take notes, but like I got to make sure I listen to this guy and listen to this woman and listen to this panel and like take all this information in. Not all of it applies. So,
dude, talking about with that event that we go to every August, like that's kind of like where we get a lot of our coaching.
A lot of like our ideas, like a lot of our marketing ideas,
our marketing ideas, our methods of like how we operate as agents, and like to separate us from everybody else. For those that don't go, like not everybody. Well,
it's good to see like what works elsewhere.
Yeah,
like what are the agents in Colorado doing that's making them so?
LA,
not that it necessarily applies to us, but you can take ideas and
try. Because the big thing is like millions of agents go. Let's say all of the agents in Rhode Island go. Probably 1% of those agents will actually come back and try to apply any of it. Mm-hmm. It'll be too much, and they're like, "Oh, just stick to what works."
Right.
But we kind of make the effort to apply something that we learn to elevate our business and our quality of service.
So, just growth, just like professional growth.
Dude, so aside from Tom Ferry, when is it? I think next week. Next week we're gonna have a guest, a financial advisor guest for everyone. He's a good buddy of mine's. Known him for a little bit. He's in the finance realm. We'll go into those details next week. And
if you have questions, let us know. Leave them in the comments, and we'll ask.
If you guys have any investing questions outside of real estate, stocks, 401ks, life insurance, all that jargon, definitely could be a good one-on-one time. And obviously, I'll grab all his contact information to provide.
I think a lot of people are going to ask, like, well, what is an estate, or what is a will, or what does like all this stuff have to do with finance and real estate? Yeah, we're gonna have to tailor that in so people understand.
That's a corner of real estate, a corner of finances that is very complex. Yep. Even for someone that probably does it every day, it's just a lot of jargon.
Yeah. Well, let him explain it, because I don't know shit about life insurance stuff.
I know a little bit life insurance, term life, all that.
I know what I have for a policy and what I pay a month. That's about it.
Hey, that's sometimes that's all you need to know.
Yeah. How's your M3 treating you?
Dude.
Did I bring up a sore subject?
Dude, I love the car. I am sad this morning though.
Uh-oh.
So my garage, or the garage where I live, the building I live, the complex I live in. You know how they have like those yellow like tire stoppers or whatever when you go into a parking spot? I put a carbon fiber front spoiler on it, and I've been very careful for the last month. Well, maybe the last month I've had it on. If anything, I parked not close enough that I look like the asshole who doesn't know how to park because my ass is sticking out just a little bit. Well, this morning, I had a very early walkthrough, and so I come back home, I go to park, and I tapped on the gas just a little bit too much, and all I hear is I reverse and I pull out something I normally don't.
It's all cracked up. That's a good one, by the way. I caught that.
Here's where I'm lucky. It's only at the bottom. So you can't really see the crack. You can't see
underneath.
It's right underneath it. So when you're looking at the car, it looks fine.
Yeah.
But I know it's there. So the first thing I did when I got into the office earlier was I bought like a scrape guard, and they're like heavy duty, like plastic that if you do scrape the bottom, it that protects it.
Right.
But I bought it not for the intent to protect it from scrapes because already had a crack there. I bought it so that way I can hold it together, because it's just one like crack, and the scrape guard is big enough to go right over the crack.
There you go.
So
you kind of saved yourself.
I'm trying to save myself. I'm gonna see when it comes in. Hopefully,
we are not having luck with our cars,
bro. I
gaffed up my wheel.
I'm just gonna start Ubering to my appointments.
I gaffed up my wheel.
That's why my post this morning in Rhode Island posted about how we're the worst state when it comes to like cross-country travel and shit, like just crossing through the state.
Which is crazy because it takes 45 seconds to get to our fucking
Exactly,
state.
But that is how bad our state is. That when people cross through it to go to New Hampshire or Maine, they're fucking miserable. I thought driving through Connecticut to New York was bad because it's like a waste of land.
That should have been no. Like, look at anybody who's driven for at least an hour in the state of Rhode Island knows that our drivers fucking suck.
Dude, it's not even about the driver. That's why it's so frustrating.
The roads,
that our
the
roads.
roads.
So we are the worst state with the worst roads.
That's why I have all this construction going on.
Dude, it's like we're proud of it. So if you go to Rhode Island dot, here's a tip for everybody. If you go to Rhode Island
Department of Transportation,
DOT,
yeah,
yep. Probably sounds like I said dot.
You did. No, it didn't sound like it. You did.
If you go to Rhode Island DOT, it will actually show you every single construction happening on our streets and highways and bridges,
yep,
with a budget of stupid millions of dollars,
yep,
the time frame they started, and the expected completion. There's a lot to be completed in 2023. We'll see.
It's not gonna happen.
No, hell no.
Guaranteed.
And here's another fun fact. You can see the old ones, and then so I saw some that were completed in like 2019, and like in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I just went over that the other day. It looks like complete shit.
You want to hear a funny conspiracy theory that I heard the other day as to why we're doing so much construction?
Talk to me.
This isn't my conspiracy theory. This is somebody else's.
I'm about to adapt this shit. I already believe it.
Is that the Rhode Island Department of Transportation owns too much of those big orange road cones, and they have nowhere to store them because they have so many. So instead of trying to find somewhere to store all these cones, they just keep doing construction.
I got a bigger one for you. Ready? That is some bullshit. But I got a bigger one. Ready? So the individuals that have big time money, like I'm not talking about investors in Apple and shit. I'm talking about the people that invested in like asphalt, tires, brakes, all that stuff. That
suspensions,
so all those investors are intertwined. They're all within the same industry, or correction, one thing affects the other. So the reason why most or some states use a very thin layer of asphalt is to put more money back into these people's pockets, because over time your tires wear and tear, so they get money when you replace tires, and you got to replace the roads a lot more often because they crack with the snow, etc., because if you use a thicker layer of asphalt, not only will the roads last longer, so will your tires, and thus your brakes and everything else. So you will delay how often.
So you say you got these motherfucking executives that are like some suspension company somewhere is like telling people like, yo, just make these roads like shit.
Well, everyone that has like you know how they say like they're like so rich they have oil money, like people like
those people.
So those people, because essentially, like if you think about it, if my tires could go that much longer with a thicker asphalt. Now, if they were making, call it $1 million a month, now if tires are lasting longer, that's going to slow down. Same reason the asphalt needs to crack faster, because they got to keep pouring asphalt to fix it. Because if you just have asphalt just sitting somewhere, that's inventory, essentially. Yeah. Same as tires, that's just inventory, not being bought. And I'm like, that is some whole shit. Like, could you imagine?
It's not a bad idea. I mean, it makes sense.
It is in your best benefit. You get paid regardless of someone having new tires, bad tires. Like, I hate that.
And then you got my dumbass who just jumps curbs and defaces the whole front of his tire.
It's alright. My wife does that shit too.
Damn.
It's alright. I
used to drive for a living.
I did it too yesterday on Saturday.
To the Tesla?
Good thing was one that showed you scratch. But, dude, I was so pissed.
Oh my god.
I was at a supercharger in Connecticut on my way back. And I like pull out. I make it apparent that I'm pulling out. There we go again. I make it apparent that I'm gonna drive off, right?
Do you announce it? I'm pulling out now?
No, I just like, I stick it out far enough where people would like can see. Oh gosh. Yo, the title of the episode: Pulling Out of the Real Estate Market.
I'm pulling out. I'm pulling out of my real estate market.
Yeah.
Dude, speaking of pulling out, not to cut off your story.
Tell me you're having another kid.
Nah, I'm getting my balls now.
All right, cool.
TMI, but it is.
Whatever.
I can't have 3 kids, bro.
That's a lot.
2. I'm crying myself to sleep.
Don't you have two cats too?
I have 1 cat. I don't even have him. It's not mine. It's Sarah's.
Kyle has
It's her cat. Like, if it were up to me, because he's an indoor cat, he's a 100% indoor cat. If it were up to me, I would just leave the back door open and let him.
I hear you.
Let nature do its thing.
I do the same.
But I don't want to see my wife cry, so he stays. No, speaking of pulling out, dude. Hey, people who are going under contract.
Oh my God!
With your representative, with your realtors, or your representatives, or your attorneys.
Yes.
Do you guys quite understand that you are signing a legally binding document when you sign the dotted line that you're going to work with your realtor or your lender or your attorney? And if you back out, you can be held liable for backing out of a legally binding contract. I'm not saying names, I'm not saying transactions, addresses, nothing like that. However, under the kindness of my own heart, and more than likely because I didn't want to deal with the BS that was going to come along with this transaction, I had a client of mine sign on Friday. Saturday, tell me, hey, we're going to do a showing. Did a showing. Sunday, don't hear from her, let her have her Sunday. And then Monday, called me and go, I don't want to sell anymore. And the nice guy in me, because they're going through some of their own things personally, the nice guy in me was like, okay, hey, listen, you guys got a lot going on. Who am I to add more stress to you? The business side and kind of the asshole side of me wanted to be like, dude, you guys signed a contract.
Yeah.
We're doing this. And the thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was she didn't give me an answer as to why. And I asked why. Is there something I did?
Yeah.
But it was, we're not gonna list with you. We're gonna take some time, get our affairs in order, and then we're gonna list with somebody else. And I wanted to say, well, we have a contract for a year. So what I could have done to that person is just held on to that contract for a year, which would prevented them from selling if they didn't want to use me. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't want to be a dickhead. There's no reason for me to be a dickhead, so I let it go. But what good is a contract if everyone's just gonna?
No, yeah,
you know what I mean.
And at the bare minimum, kind of just give us a why, because
a why would have been great.
I don't think anyone intentionally tries to be a dickhead, but to your point, when we don't know the why, it's just kind of
yeah.
Well, then,
yep.
Are you screwing me? Mm-hmm. And as Rhode Islanders, everyone's always thinking that someone's out to get them, right? So it's kind of if I can't get a why, then it feels like, mm-hmm. What are you doing behind my back? Mm-hmm. If you give me a legit reason as to hey, I can no longer fulfill this contract that we just signed,
right.
And here's why. I mean, of course, who wouldn't just rip it up?
There's no sense in us wasting our time.
But if you're just I just don't want to tell you.
Then, so the only why I got, and this is not a valid reason, folks, was she didn't get the warm and fuzzy.
Interesting.
That was her reason.
She did that, cold
and so I kind of told her, I was like, again, in a nice way, I wasn't being rude or anything. I was honestly,
you didn't sweep her off her feet type of thing.
It could have beat me because during the listing appointment, she was like, "Give me the pen. I'm signing right now." And I was like, not literally, but she was ready. She was ready to.
Sounds like a typical case of cold feet, and it happens. I've had one.
I think I know the reason. This is purely speculative, but she's got some family that I think chirped in her ear,
and that's usually where cold feet comes from.
But those family could get you in trouble because if you had somebody who was like, nope, you signed a legally binding contract for this amount of time, you will not get rid of me until either that expiration date or you choose to work with me. I don't find it valuable to work with somebody who doesn't want to work with you. If you don't want to work with me, then by all means, go do what you got to do. But
that's happened once where I've had a buyer, and this was in the beginning of the stage. I'm talking about we're closing a week.
Oh wow!
Maybe a week and a half at max we're closing, and same thing. A few family members kind of just chirping in the ear of that's I don't want to say they stated it was a bad house. My understanding was maybe too far for them to visit, and I'm like, I'm sorry, who's paying the mortgage and who's going to be actually living in the home?
Oh, so the family told them hey, this is going to be too far for us to come see you guys.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you're Johnston to Providence, whatever it is, it's my point exactly, right? Nonetheless, in that situation when someone was we want to back out, and there was really no real cause, I did my best to try to, and I forgot what I said last, but long story short, I think once they realize, like, oh shit, I can't just easily walk away from this, and that's the issue, right? Sometimes we make it look like it's such an easy transaction, such an easy, like, I want this and I got 15 days to return it. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, once a realization of, like, the seller's losing a lot more than you, and they're willing to go fight you in court for it, it kind of hit that realization of, like, let me put on my big boy, big girl pants on, tell my family members this is my decision, and, you know, fulfill your decision.
Right. If you make me do this, I'm going to be losing a good amount of money. Yeah. And getting sued. Because they're going to keep your EMD.
And that's the thing, you know, not everyone knows the process, and it's also our job to do our best to explain it. That's but, like, that's one of, my bad, but, like, I think you were going to say, like, telling someone, like, hey, you might get sued if you don't follow through with, like, that's not something that you have a conversation about. It's kind of like common sense to say, like, you intend to buy this, and we're going to walk you through the process, and here we go.
That's like, I was going to say, is like, it's difficult for us as realtors, like, especially when we're having the initial, like, buyer or seller consultation, to go over every possible case scenario.
Unless they ask too, like, if someone is like,
but that's not like,
hey, what's the worst
people ask?
Yeah,
like,
no, it's
like,
like,
you know, when you have your initial buyer consultation or you're at your listing appointment, and like, very rarely are people like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Everybody wants to know, like, how are you going to get this done for us, and, like, how are we going to do it as, like, efficiently and expeditiously as possible? No one really asks, like, hey, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Because there's too many scenarios.
There's way too many scenarios.
To go over worst case scenarios, you know?
That's what people sometimes tell me. Like, I've had people say, like, oh, like, how come you didn't tell me that if I did this, I'd lose my EMD? It's like,
it's not
because,
common practice.
Number one, it's not common practice. And number two, like, I could go over 5,000 scenarios with how this transaction could go, and every single one's going to be different in how it comes out. So, like, we just can't. You got to ask. You got to ask questions. I guess that should be something that buyers should know. Like, ask questions. Like, not only like, what cool shit are you going to do for me in this transaction? What happens if I back out? What happens if I get cold feet? What happens? Like, we can save it up to a certain amount of time. We can save it if you get cold feet, but after that inspection contingency is over, sorry, you know, unless you got somebody being in a good mood.
We're gonna end this episode on that note. We're gonna have we're gonna have a guest next week, and then I also want to touch the topic of what Kyle and I think is the reason for the rising rents in Rhode Island. I have my thoughts. Kyle has his. I also have my conspiracies, and I will definitely be sprinkling those in there. But as of now, I think that's it.